Hello and welcome to our episode 2 of season 5 of the Futures in Digital Learning podcast. Thank you all for joining us. Once again, I am Adam Davi, Instructional Design Manager with UCAT at the University of Arizona, and joined once again by my co-host Brian Hale.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are talking with Mariya Tseptsura, the Director of the Online Writing Program here at the University of Arizona. We're going to have a conversation about her use of FeedbackFruits and maybe some other external learning tools, but we're focusing on how she uses FeedbackFruits in her classes. So, Mariya, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and hi, everybody.
Awesome. So, for those who don't know, who may not have heard of or used FeedbackFruits before, it is primarily a peer review tool, but it has a lot of other fun options and things that you can do with it. And so we'll dive into some of those, I'm sure. But Mariya, I'm just curious, and I invited you on here because we saw kind of a case study of how you use FeedbackFruits. But I would love for you to share with our listeners, like, how do you use it in your classes or in the program, I guess, as a whole, right?
Yeah, and just a couple of words about the program and our classes to give your listeners an idea of what we're talking about. So we have many sections of freshman writing, so English 101, 102, and all of the other 100-level English courses in our program offered online to our Arizona Online campus, to our main campus students who take some of their courses online. So we have about 40, 50 sections of these courses, right? So it's a lot of students. It's like 1,000 students a year. And we have multiple instructors teaching them, right? And as you probably know, designing an online course from scratch takes a lot of time. Not everybody has the expertise to design them from scratch. So we typically have pre-designed courses that we build and we give them to the instructors who can then modify them, change them up, like fine-tune them to the way they like them to be. And then they teach these classes. But like for the most part, like there is some uniformity, right? And we kind of ensure some threshold quality of these courses, right? So I built these courses, right, together with my admin team and some of the UCAT members as well.
Go, instructional designers.
Yay. And then we kind of explain what things are, how to work with them, right? And we're also the ones who end up looking for the technology we want to use in these courses, right? How we use these tools and what they do in our classes and how then we can introduce them to instructors and students. So we started using FeedbackFruits in our pre-designed courses, or I'll probably call them PDC. PDCs later on, so that's what it stands for, pre-designed courses. We started using FeedbackFruits in the fall of 2023 when I got a message from UCAT saying like, hey, there's this peer review tool that we might be interested in. Do you want to do a little pilot run? And we said, yes. We do very much want to have a tool that works well, that can facilitate like small group discussion, right, between students, and that we won't have to pay for.
Yeah.
So we introduced this course to just a small group of instructors. I just basically sent out a call like, hey, do you want to try this out? Yeah. We'll build it. We'll show you how to use it, and you can just see if it works well for you. So I used it in my own course that semester. My assistant director used it, and a couple of other people, and everybody really liked it because it's kind of for anybody not familiar with what FeedbackFruits look like, imagine it's kind of a cross between like an assignment in your LMS and something like Google Docs, where students can post a comment and then also respond to that comment, right? But instead of just posting random comments, everybody gets a prompt that you designed, the instructor designed prompt, right? Where students are asked like, well, hey, what do you think about the thesis in this paper? Like, does it make sense to you? Or like, what kind of suggestions do you have? So it's sort of a combination of this guided activity and a collaborative space like Google Docs where people can comment on each other's papers, respond to those comments, and like kind of engage with each other. So yeah, we kind of built those activities. Instructors seemed to like them. We also surveyed students. We got like 700 responses from students where we asked them like, well, hey, how did you like this tool? What worked well? What didn't work well? And students, I think something like 96% said they really liked it. And they really liked that guided step-by-step, right, process where it's not just like, well, go review each other's papers. Here's just a set of questions, right, and just do something with it.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit more structured, more guided. And so, yeah, we've been using it since 2023. And then I think a year later, we just made the full switch. And now it's integrated into D2L. With the new content experience, it's going to be even easier. It's just like right there. You don't have to go outside.
Yeah, it embeds nicely in the
Yeah.
Do you set it up so students are like randomly assigned to other students, work that they submit?
Yeah, there are multiple options.
Yeah.
Our default, especially for like first or second week of class, just put them in random groups because you don't know them yet. Right. So FeedbackFruits can automatically assign people just randomly. But then we recommend to instructors like, hey, if you know that some students are like working on specific topics and maybe you want to put them together because they're, similar topics, or students have similar personalities or some other factors, right? You put them together in one group, see if it makes the group work better.
Right.
And I know other instructors do other more creative things where they kind of make people decide like, hey, you go find somebody you want to work with in our class. Yeah. And it can be easier in an in-person class than online class, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I like that randomization feature for online specifically, because then it allows for instructors to make sure that students are seeing work of multiple other students as well, as opposed to if they're just commenting on discussion boards, they might just go to the
same three people.
Whoever submitted first is going to get a bunch of comments, and whoever submits last is not going to
like when you have an in-person class and there's that group of students who always want to work together and like and if you want to break them up, you're the mean teacher.
So back to that again, the randomization gives people different perspectives and different opportunities to see what other students are doing. So
what I also like about FeedbackFruits is that you can make the students' drafts visible only within their peer review group or their annotating group, or make it visible to the entire class. So anybody can like go in and browse like, oh, what's so-and-so doing? Like, or is anybody else working with this topic? Or just kind of get a better idea of what people are doing. Because I think that's the most important part of peer review, right? Seeing what other people are doing.
Exactly. So I guess next we've talked about, kind of some of the benefits and the positives that you've seen, and the students seem to like it. What have been some of the challenges with using this tool?
I think with any external tool, as soon as students have to step outside of the LMS or D2L in our case, as soon as they have to step outside, there's a chance that something will go wrong. People get, logged out of their account, or some glitches happen. So we've had that happening where a student would just email instructor, hey, I can't log in. Right. And that's inevitable. It happens with our textbooks. It happens with pretty much anything, right? Where like as soon as there's an extra step, an extra login, things might go wrong. So that's a bit of a challenge. And I think sometimes just for less tech savvy students, right? Again, any new instrument they have to figure out. And I think FeedbackFruits is relatively easy and user-friendly, so it's not as big of a challenge to like figure out how to use it. It's pretty intuitive, but it's still a different tool, right? So it is a little learning step for students, and I think it falls on the instructor to show them how to use it, and that's what we've been trying to do, like give them like how-to videos and prepare them. We have like a little in our English 101 course, before they do an actual peer review, they have a little practice run where they're just like,
Okay.
oh, submit a little reflection in this short activity and just see how the tool is working for you,
Okay.
and let me know if any issues, if you can't, I don't know, find where to comment or where to find feedback, right? So it's kind of a troubleshooting run.
Right.
That's a really great idea.
great.
Have a low stakes troubleshooting run instead of
Mhm.
here's your first assignment that's due. I hope it works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you're listening right now, write that down.
Yeah.
Put that in. And that's really cool too. So you have how-to videos for students.
Mhm.
I would love to see those, after this.
Yeah,
Check those out.
we've made them for
That's great.
instructors as
And
well.
instructors. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. And is that just part of like the Start Here module that you put in for students, or do you have that in a separate place so they can access that and find those easy?
Yeah, we have them with the first activities
Okay.
in the course
Okay.
because, again,
Right.
we don't rely on students going through every
Yeah.
first day of class document that we throw at them, because
Yeah.
there's so much. There's like all of the technology tools in the class, and here's
Yeah.
your syllabus. And by the way, there's like 5 other prompts that you have to
Right.
look at right away. So we try to kind of give them at the time where they're actually going to need that and apply that in their work, right? So
Okay.
I think all of our peer review activities include like, oh, if you need help, here's like some resources. Here's how to get FeedbackFruits support
Mhm.
if you need them,
Yeah.
right? Because some students don't realize that they have the little support button,
Right.
right? And then it actually works. So, yeah.
That's great. I think that's super helpful. So you mentioned that you have some other tools that you use in the course as well. What are some of those other tools, and what are they? What kind of instructional goals are they in there to achieve?
Well, we have a few different other tools
Yeah.
in the course. Some are pretty simple, like Google Docs.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that students actually read the course syllabus, and then they actually come up with questions at the start of the class rather than the end of the class when there's an issue,
Yeah.
right? So we want to make sure that they actually review all of the course policies, that they have a good understanding of what's happening, and that they have a chance to ask questions.
Okay.
And students don't like emailing their professors
Yeah.
in an online class. They
Yeah.
feel like email is just so formal, and like they're just not going to do it, even if
Right.
they legit have questions. So we kind of force them to post a question about the syllabus by putting that syllabus in a Google Doc, and then everybody just goes in and like they just need to post a question.
Okay.
And then the benefit is like everybody else can see everybody else's questions, right? So you get like a pretty good idea, and usually that clears up a lot of potential misunderstandings.
Yeah.
Right away, like, no, this is not a self-paced course.
Right.
So we do have due dates. So
Yeah. You just turn everything in the last week of class.
yeah, it's probably not gonna make it a good experience
right.
for anybody. Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the benefits of an online class where you actually have time to sit down, review the syllabus, think about the questions, right? You're like, for people who don't think like quickly on the fly, having the like 20-minute syllabus review in the class and then having to like, anybody has questions? And you're like, I don't know, just give me a couple of hours. I'm sure I'll have a question, right? So I think that's a good thing about online classes, right? You have all the time to think, to come up with something good to share, right?
Yeah. And I think it's good for other students to see questions that their classmates have as well.
Oh, yeah.
I had that same question. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important for them to see what all the other students are thinking, because I think that helps shape their thinking about the content in the course. And it also lets the instructor know, hey, I might have a pain point here because everybody's asking me the same question about this thing. So I might need to set aside some time later on to make an announcement or address that in some way, or just take a poll from the students and like how about we just drop this from the course and we focus on other stuff?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's great.
In terms of other technologies, I mean, we have FeedbackFruits for peer review and the social annotations where they annotate a text together in a small group.
Okay. All right.
And we also use PlayPosit for for like shorter instructional videos with embedded quizzes. Okay. So I think those are our main tools. Okay. Yeah, the big ones we're using. Okay. Yeah. And I'm happy.
So I'm curious about this social annotation that you use in FeedbackFruits too, because that's one of the other features. Like we said at the beginning, there's lots of features in FeedbackFruits. If you haven't seen it, it can be a little overwhelming, but it can also be really cool. So what do you do with the social annotation?
So we use it in our English 101 courses where students work with a new genre. For example, they need to create a personal narrative or like a genre analysis. Okay. And we give them some sample texts, like sample personal narratives that just like focus on a specific topic, right? And then we put them in small groups of like 4 or 5. And in FeedbackFruits, they work within their group. They are directed to this sample text. It pulls up, it looks like a PDF document, right? But instructor adds specific questions and prompts. One usually prompt them to think about, okay, read it as a writer, right? So like watch for what the author is doing here, how they're building their narrative, how like what are they doing in this conclusion, or how are they setting up like their own position within this text, right? Like, what do you notice? Or like, do you notice any cool metaphors they use? Like, what's your favorite, right? Yeah. So we add those prompts on that document, and then in small groups, students are asked to like respond to those comments, but also like they can post their own observations and notes, and usually it generates a pretty good discussion. And then we actually have a follow-up task to that where we ask students to, okay, now go look at all of the comments from your group. What do you notice? Like, what do you think is your collective understanding of how this type of narrative works? Yeah. And I think it's really helpful to have that like discussion like in a document, right? Like if you imagine it, like I always try to imagine as a physical space, like, oh, we're all sitting in this document, right? And we're kind of talking about and like and pointing, and we see like what each one of us is pointing at, which is very hard to do if you're just using discussions in D2L. Like you can't really be as specific. No. Right. So it really helps when we're all kind of in the same room with the same text, and we're talking about it together.
That's really cool. Yeah. So does each individual instructor come up with their own prompts, or are they just, those are the prompts that every English 101 instructor uses and copies from those PDCs into their individual course?
So our approach is we make our courses as robust as possible so that you can just go in. We have situations where instructors are assigned a course that we like had to open, and they have like 5 days to get ready to teach it, right? So we don't want to leave it where something is like, no, you have to go build this activity now. Right. So everything is as much preset as possible. So we do like, we kind of brainstormed, and it was like a team of us. We brainstormed, okay, what kind of questions that we're going to ask here? So those questions are posted. We typically tell instructors, hey, do they make sense to you? Do you want to ask something else? Like, especially if you have background in, say, creative writing, you might have better questions to ask, right? Or different questions to ask. So instructors can modify anything. Like, nothing is locked. Okay. I know some online programs run their courses where, like, it's the content is locked.
This is what it is.
Like, you have to teach it. Like, don't change anything, right? This is what we're doing. We kind of approach it like we trust our instructors, I guess, maybe a little bit more. And we don't want to tell them like, no, you cannot deviate from what we designed. So they're welcome to modify those questions, delete questions they don't like, because, you know, you don't want to be teaching something that you disagree with for whatever reason. Right. So that they can modify those questions. And it's pretty easy to do in FeedbackFruits, right? And again, nothing is locked, right? I like the flexibility.
Very cool.
Now, when you say you have all these instructors teaching the same course. Do you do a Zoom meeting with all the instructors and say, now you've had a chance to review the course, what are your questions? Do you do that? Or is it like, here's your course you're going to be teaching, email me your questions? How do you approach that with your...
We typically have a pre-semester meeting where we go over here are our latest policies for online teaching and latest updates to these courses, and let's look at how we're setting them up. And we have support hours where people check in with us if they need any help with troubleshooting things. And then we have an online forum where they can submit comments or issues that came up, or things not working, links being broken, right? And then at the end of the semester, we have a debrief meeting again, where we just get together over Zoom and we talk about, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well, what should we do? And for the past 2 years, I've also been sending out student surveys towards the end of the class, where we ask specifically about course design, because we kind of learn not to rely on the course evaluations too much, because they don't really
talk about course design.
No, they don't yield as useful with feedback as what we can get. So and we try to listen and try to accommodate as much as possible. And I know we just had a major redesign of the PDCs last year, and the new curriculum kind of tried to accommodate some of the things instructors were voicing as either concerns or I would like to do this, right? So, yeah.
And now you have to do it all in new content experience.
Oh my gosh, yes. And now we have another update coming up, and we have to revise again. Yeah.
So when you're planning out a course like one of these, and at what point do you sit down and you take all of that feedback from the last time it ran, look at the feedback and determine, okay, we need a tool that does X and Y, and we're going to need another tool that does A, B, C. Oh, and guess what? We're going to need a third tool. Oh, but wait, actually, this first tool can do what we need this third thing to do. When do you start sort of mapping out and budgeting your time for having to learn this new tool, having to teach the instructors that are going to teach this course how to use this new tool? What part of when does that come into play when you're thinking about this course overall?
I think that type of approach where this is the, learning outcome or the content I want to teach, and this is the type of tool I would want. I don't think we think in these terms necessarily, because that's just, that would lead to a lot of wishful thinking, and nobody's gonna give us all the money to develop the ideal tools that we want. Tragic. So what we typically do is okay, we have these 5 tools that can do these things. Do we want to use them? How do we want to use them? Is it worth it? So for example, FeedbackFruits also has discussions, and we looked at them. Should we use FeedbackFruits discussions or D2L discussions? What are the benefits and what are the drawbacks? Are we gonna what are we gonna trade off if we want to use that versus something else, right? And we decided not to use discussions because it felt like the benefits we would gain from that do not outweigh having to redirect students outside of the LMS and having to learn yet another new interface when most of them are pretty used to the D2L discussion. So I feel no, we don't want to push for something new, right? Because the technology, the tool itself is never the point, right? We kind of evaluated okay, what does it afford us? And what are the limitations, or what are the drawbacks? How much time students will need, right, to spend learning it? How many of them are going to be lost if they have to step outside and they get kicked out of the system or whatever? So we kind of have to weigh and then decide okay, let's try it out. Is it working? And then also for us as admins on the admin team, how much additional work and upkeep and maintenance does it create, right? Which is not a major consideration, but it's still a consideration. So with PlayPosit, one of the benefits is compared to, okay, what's the alternative here? Posting a video through Panopto or YouTube, right? Or something of the sort where, well, can we ensure they're actually watching it?
Right.
Not as much, right? So the main benefit with PlayPosit, even though it meant like additional time for us to actually build it through PlayPosit and troubleshoot and make sure it's working well and can be copied into multiple sections correctly. So all of that, right? But the benefit is we can actually see that students are watching them. We ask questions at the end to kind of check for comprehension. And it's the sort of check where instructors can see if students are actually getting the ideas they want to be teaching them or not. So it's useful, right?
Yeah.
So it's worth our time investing in this tool.
So I'm curious, though, if you could build an ideal tool that would meet all the, help you meet all the learning outcomes that you have for your course, what would that look like?
Oh my gosh, that's
right. I put you on the spot there. I'm like, money's no object. You just someone has come in and said, I'm going to give you all the money you need. You can design this tool. What would it do? And the easy answer is everything.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh, that's gonna I'm like, okay, I'm gonna schedule like a 2-hour brainstorming session.
I guess maybe the easier question then with something like that is, where do you feel the gaps are between the LMS and some of these external learning tools that you think would be nice if something filled those gaps?
I think the gaps that I see are not necessarily with the external tools, because I think those are, for the most part, okay, right?
Yeah,
and they work for what they're built for, and are usually pretty easy to use. I see a gap between all of the technology and like social media technology, right, that are developing in the outside world versus something like an LMS where everything tends to like turn like super formal and sometimes clunky and like not necessarily as user right. So social media, I mean, besides the fact they're probably evil and they're trying to get the people addicted to them, right? But can we get them addicted to like a course, course content, right? Why aren't we thinking about keeping students' attention in the class by building the tool that's easy to use, that will kind of prompt them like, oh, well, what about this next thing? And like, oh, hey, don't forget about this next deadline, right? So we're not thinking in these terms at all because we have very different motivation, right? We're not, this is not our financial incentive to keep the students,
but even just that type of navigation and way that they engage with content and social media, like making that more of a priority in these spaces that they're in for learning, because that's what they're used to, right? Like that's, what where they live, so to speak, in their world. And so how can we meet them where they are so that, maybe they do want to stick around, or maybe it's easier for them to then navigate in these learning spaces because they're more accustomed to seeing, how it's laid out.
Good point. And I think just think about like social media, the degree of personalization and control you have over like how your page is displayed, what you're posting, and just like the freedom you have there with like an LMS. You're so limited to like how your little picture shows up, right? Or like how you can engage with others' posts, right? Can you
leave an emoji? Can you share a meme?
Can you put a GIF image? Right. Yes. So kind of the personalization, the social interaction part of it. In some, admittedly, some LMS are better than others. I feel like D2L is probably a little bit clunkier than some other tools, right, for even things like discussions and making sure students are can talk to each other easily. A lot of LMS feel like they're built more for accountability than for like fun and engagement.
Right.
And students feel that, right? And so it's kind of when it's more of a chore, right? Then students kind of like, well, this is work.
They're gonna get in and get out quickly. And not spend the time to do more than they have to. Right.
It's so funny. I just wrote an article about this exact thing we're talking about right now. And it's a student may not necessarily remember the content of your course, but they remember how they feel when they were in your course. And it's, if you think about, like, we got to do our food analogy. If you think about your favorite restaurant, it may not necessarily be about the food. It could be the food plus the atmosphere plus the servers that are constantly taking care of you and meeting your needs while you're there. So the reason you keep going back to that restaurant is because of how that restaurant made you feel. And a lot of instructors don't consider that aspect in their course design. How is all this stuff that I'm pushing towards my students going to make them feel? And I think the more we can add interactive discussion posts or have your students comment on your syllabus, have them, that just makes it such more of an open, less restrictive, not the full suit and tie treatment, but the casual, let's have fun together kind of thing.
The community aspect.
The community.
So that's a good question. Did any of the students when you did the survey, did they comment at all about like how the courses built community, or how they were better able to engage with their peers, anything like that?
A lot of them appreciated like being able to see other people's work and like engaging with them. Traditionally in online classes, I think students place a lot less value on like peer-to-peer interactions compared to like peer to instructor,
right?
Because like the grade is the only thing that matters. But ultimately I think it's good for them to have a sense of like, oh, there's other people, real life human beings, right, who are in this class and going through the same things, and this is how they're approaching it. So I feel like activities like peer reviews, discussions, right, or even like commenting on the same Google Doc where everybody can see like, oh, so and so had a good question that I didn't think about. Why didn't I think about this question, right? It helps to we're social animals, right? So it is important. And I wish our LMS tools were a little bit easier for that, because I feel like they kind of tend to make everything more restricted and formal. I always tell our instructors, like, be a little extra, like whenever you put in writing, like, people can hear your tone. They can hear, like, they can see that you're saying it with a smile, right? Like, that it's supposed to be a joke. So like, be a little extra in your written communication compared to like how you are in the classroom.
Find ways to bring personality. And then by doing that, it hopefully encourages students to bring their personality into their work as well.
And they do feel more connected, like especially one instructor, when they can get like a good feeling of who their instructor is as a person, right? And they feel that they're approachable, supportive, right? It does engage their sense of community, belonging, engagement, right? Determination to finish this class, right? So all of those things. And
so bringing that kind of full circle back to FeedbackFruits, which is where this conversation started, like how do you see FeedbackFruits being, a positive conductor in that, community building?
Well, the biggest part of it is that it's an easier way to have a dialogue, right, between students. So our alternative is to have a discussion through D2L and those, like, I've done peer reviews through discussions in Blackboard and D2L and Canvas, it's always the same thing. Students would like upload their draft, and then a reviewer will download the draft, read it, write one paragraph in response, post that, and that's it.
It's done.
Right?
Yeah.
With something like FeedbackFruits, they have prompts that kind of walk them through the draft. They have to like go and answer the prompt. They're also asked to like, oh, comment on other things you notice, right? And then their peers can also respond. And you can set it up. There's like so many functionalities in FeedbackFruits where you can require students like to go and like respond to the feedback they got, or to rate the feedback they got, and just kind of like up the the stakes a little bit that way. But also, just being able to see like the entire class worth of work, right? That helps as well. Another thing that I noticed is, and that's sort of the more negative influence, I think, of social media, is a lot of times, because digital peer reviews, online peer reviews are like all visible, like instructor can see everything, unlike like peer review in the classroom, the traditional review where it's like a small group discussion, or maybe they printed out their papers, or even like a lot of students just bring their laptops and like, here's my paper with a laptop, and they just comment, and those comments are saved on their computer, right? So instructors don't get to see what's going on. Online peer reviews, they get to see everything. So students have that mentality like, oh, well, it's just like an online forum, and we need a moderator, and our instructor is the moderator, and they need to go in and tell people what not to do, or like tell people what to do, and just like review everything, which, I mean, shouldn't be. It shouldn't be the goal of peer review, right? So
can instructors go in and comment on the reviews?
In theory, yes. In theory, as an instructor, I can go in and comment on every single comment every single student left on. Right, that'll be like in the hundreds. In the if you want to keep your sanity. There's going to be hundreds of comments, right, from every peer review activity. So what students think I should be doing, some students, not all, but some students have that mentality that what I should be doing as an instructor is just like reviewing everything and like making sure that people are not mean, or that they're providing correct feedback, even though like sometimes there's no such thing as correct or incorrect feedback. Like, I really liked your opening. Like, I feel like it was a good first sentence. Like, how is that correct or incorrect?
Right.
So we kind of stepped away from trying to view peer review as this kind of a substitute teacher grading an assignment before the teacher grades it. Like, we're trying to also walk students away from that mindset and prompt them to think about peer reviews like, this is your opportunity to get that human reaction to your draft. Like, what does it do for an actual reader, right? And not even so much focusing on like grammatical correctness, or like if your commas are all there, because AI can do that for you, right? So you don't really need your peers to make sure your commas are all there. That's not the point, right? So peer review, I feel like we've been trying to kind of build it as a more of a, this is what a human reader, right? This is what they would think about your draft. Is this a reaction you thought it would get, right? And what would you change, right? And like what this other perspective is telling you about your draft.
Do you have students, so after they get the peer review and make revisions, turn in another draft or final, wherever that leads, do you have them reflect on like, the feedback they got and how they use that to make the revisions? We asked them to describe the revisions they made, why they made them, describe like the feedback they got and what stood out to them. We never tell them, oh, you have to implement all of the feedback you got. It's like, no, we ask them like, okay, think about the feedback. Does it make sense to you? Like, do you want to do that? Because sometimes even feedback from instructor, like maybe they're just pushing you in a different direction where you don't want to go. Right. And then they have a chance to make a case like, well, I did get that comment, but I didn't feel like it was a good idea. So I wanted to do something else. So we ask them to kind of engage and reflect on the feedback before they just implement it. I remember when I was taking a course in one of my programs, and I got feedback on a project I did, and it was completely the other direction of what my vision of what my project was. And I was just like, I can't do that. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, no. And even the instructor came back and was like, no, I understand. Like, that's not where you wanted to go with that. So it's okay. Like, you don't have to to implement that. And I think that's a big deal because sometimes students do feel that pressure. Like, oh, I got this feedback. I need to incorporate it, but not if it's detrimental to your work that you're trying to do.
And that's great too, because that's another skill you're building.
Exactly.
That may not have been part of the lesson plan at all, but you're learning how to look for certain things in other people's work. Yeah. And then that sparks some creativity in you thinking, oh, maybe I should go and put that in mine or what is this person? What is this feedback? No, delete.
Yeah. Well, that's really great. I think this is, I appreciate you coming on and sharing, the ways that you use this tool and how you build engagement and community within the courses and how you're doing it on a bigger scale. I think to me that's an interesting part too, is how it's on a larger scale with multiple courses and multiple instructors, but you still give those instructors that freedom to make it their own.
Okay.
Even though it's taught and in so many different courses. So that's a pretty cool thing. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing about all these different techniques and strategies. I hope for those of you listening that you took away some fun tips and tricks to use in your class, whether you're using FeedbackFruits or something else, or just some things to think about. So Mariya, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for a great discussion.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And for those listening, make sure you, keep following us and tune in next month for another episode. So thank you very much.
The Futures of Digital Learning podcast is a production of the University of Arizona University Center for Assessment, Teaching, and Technology. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas you'd like to share with our office, go to the Contact Us link on our website, ucatt.arizona.edu.